Okay, so we're trying this again. I think it'll work this time. And I'm not gonna lie, if this one doesn't work, I might give up. But hey everyone, let's see. How are we doing so far? Yeah, I had some trouble with the internet just now, but that's okay. So I was challenged last week to see if I could create some merch, and I said I'd have it done by today, and I have done that. And this is currently, if you go to merch merch.truepokerdealer.com, we've got the store where you can buy some stuff. I sort of put together some basic stuff. Oh, when I resize it here, it resizes it everywhere. And let me get myself out of this for a second, or I'll shrink myself down a bit. Yeah, there we go. So you can sort of see threw some stuff together with the two different versions of the logo that I have, and yeah, it looks like the stream's good this time, which is nice. And what I'm going to do now with people that are watching is I'm going to come up with some certain sayings, slogans, stuff like that to put on the designs for True Poker Dealer gear. And I'd love some feedback on that. And yeah, it should be cool. So let me make this a little bit larger so it takes up the whole screen. I think I want to pull myself over here. How do I do this properly? I don't know. Maybe right there. So it looks like everything's working now, and here I have some stuff on the store in order to support the channel. Anybody could buy any of this. And again, somebody asked me last week if I could put this together, so I did it. And this can be found at merch.truepokerdealer.com, or I could do, I think this works as well. Man, these, yeah, that creates a link out of it. Maybe I could delete this one. Yep. Message retracted. So, all right, so now we got our regular little live stream. Okay, man, technical issues was something that I used, like, YouTube's great, they do a lot of great things, but they changed their format and it led to some stuff that was weird, such as being live when I don't realize I'm live. I don't like that, but that's okay. So, all right, I'm gonna sort of throw this out there. I'm curious at what you guys think of some of these ideas, but for, like, I guess I want to know what people actually want to be wearing. So what would, let's see, possible slogans, all right, to vote for. So let's get some voting in here. Anybody that has a preference, if you vote for any of the following slogans, then you can ultimately contribute to me putting the work into putting this design up for something to be sold. So the first one, quote, I blame it on the dealer. That's one possible vote option. Actually, we'll go like this. It'll be options. Hi, Chad. 1. I blame it on the dealer. 2. It's gotta be the dealer. 3. Dealer's fault. With a target on the item. How's it going today, Chad? Good to see you here, and curious. So if you go to merch.truepokerdealer.com, Chad is the one that asked for the merchandise last time, and I appreciate that request. And I'm curious if this was along the lines of what you were picturing for merchandise. Teespring is a company that I used to set all this stuff up. I feel like they're okay. It's certainly not perfect, but one of the reasons that I went with them is because YouTube partners with them sort of nicely. So let's see if I scroll down a little bit. Maybe I can pull this stuff up off of my head, right? Yeah. Oh man, it's buffering again. Well, if it's doing that, I can't blame anybody for not being here. That's interesting because on my side it actually does not show any issues this time. But thank you for telling me that. Like consistently it's doing the whole buffering thing. I wonder why. Do I have anything running here? No. Let me see here. I'm jumping onto Facebook so that I can chat with Chad there and see. Yeah, I just don't know what to think of that. Maybe it's buffering is I should just tell everyone that I'm going to teach side pots and multi-way all-ins all the way from beginning to end. I'm going to drive everybody crazy, right? Yes, I'm kidding. I feel... I don't want this to be like this. That's what I'll say. I was sort of excited to go down this route, and I feel like this live stream is not happening. You know what? I'm gonna grab my iPad and view it for myself. It seems okay. It seems okay. Oh wow, there's much less of a delay than there used to be. Oh wow, there's much less of a delay than there used to be. It's only like a 5 second delay now. That's interesting. All right, it seems like it's okay. I'm not catching the buffering when I watch it, so I am gonna continue. And we'll just say if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So let's see. So yeah, Truepokerdealer now does have, and it can be found at merch.truepokerdealer.com, or you can go to the website and you can see there's a little merch icon in the upper right. I will show it to you right here. So you can see right over here on the upper right, you can't see my mouse, but the merch button in the upper right brings you right here, which this live stream is definitely not the one to sell this, but who cares? Yeah, I feel sort of spent. Let's do this. I'm going to edit, and we'll change this to live QA with Truepokerdealer. Chad said it isn't buffering now, thank goodness. Yeah, I sort of stuck with it, and I noticed that it seemed like it wasn't doing it anymore. And I can talk about the merch and stuff. Change it to a regular live QA. I feel like I can edit out the stuff in the beginning after the fact, and just some things weren't meant to be. No problem though. So, what's going on in the world of poker right now? Let's see. That come to mind for me. There are definitely a lot more poker rooms that seem to be opening back up again. I've noticed, entire states are talking about it. I was recently having a conversation with the GM in Dallas for TCH, talking about how they're getting very close to opening there. They've actually hired all the dealers that they need at the moment. And they had a whole bunch of pre-registers where, the way that it works in Texas, in order to make it legal for the poker rooms, they don't allow anybody to take a rake. So all the poker rooms in Texas have to charge people by the hour, and they also do a monthly membership in order to be a part of it in the first place. So they were saying that they did a discount for their monthly membership for this room in Dallas that's opening up, TCH, Texas Card House. And they got hundreds of people that registered with that little promo. That's a good deal for anybody that's looking to get their membership through them. Chad says, what's the fastest you can deal cards? The record is 12.3 seconds. I think it says 9 players to get it around the table. I'm going to be honest with you. I've never been the fastest dealer. I am quick, but not like competition fast. So like I'm happy to sort of show you. Let me put this down here and zoom this out a little bit. Let me hide these. Let's see, I'll get rid of that logo. And I need this back. We can scale this up. I'll show you how quick I get around the table. Can't quite see the whole table with this shot. Why is that? In order for me to do that, which that would take me too much time to set up, so I'm going to sort of allow it to show the way that it's here. And yeah, you can kind of see this. And with my messy table, stuff's always happening on this table. The table never rests. And when it's time for the live streams, I forget to clean up just because stuff's always happening here. it's brainstorms and poker games and teaching. And I did an audition for somebody last night where they had taken my course, and something that I've offered people and I continue to offer it for now is if you take the course and you get to the point where you think you're ready to audition, I'll just audition you. It's a pretty cool process where you do about an hour with me, and I break down and make corrections to all the stuff in the audition that you need corrected, and then after the fact you go and you train those habits for yourself. But all right, we'll do a quick little demo. You know what, actually I just want to pitch for a second just to sort of get the feel, because I haven't been a dealer in a long time. So yeah, the speed comes. I remember it took about a half hour to get more speed. I know that dealers go super fast sometimes. So being True Poker Dealer, where I've spent a lot of my time being a supervisor, getting my speed up has never really mattered that much, because the majority of the time that I worked as a poker dealer, I actually worked in a room that split tips, and that was a couple of years like that. Then I was a supervisor in a room where it was keep your own, but I never kept my own because I was a supervisor. And then I went and dealt for the Hard Rock for less than a year, and I wasn't quite there long enough for it to make a difference. So what I'll do here is we'll put the button over here, and I'll just sort of go around the table as quick as I can. I would love to see poker reviews from you, like poker card reviews, chip reviews, and stuff. Also, game or live casino game. I appreciate that. Let me see. Poker card reviews, chip reviews. I do have a couple of felts coming from Chanman Poker Tables that I'm going to be reviewing. We did a test run. It needed to so I'll do that. But yeah, I would love to do product reviews too. I can do that stuff, and there is a distinct audience difference for home game versus live. So this is going to be me getting the cards around the table. I'm just going to start with a shuffle and then go, and you'll see about how fast I go. Now, if you're a practice dealer, you should be able to go well, I guess if you're in practice, you should be able to go at least as fast, right? So I don't know what the time was on that, but that was shuffle to pitch out, and now it's time to sort of get the cards going. So I mean, it's like, you keep it in, and you just, I don't know how many seats I'm going to. I don't have stack set up. That card sort of flashed. My integrity makes me say that. Looks like my head's cut off. I want to fix that. But let's do this. There we go. A little better? Yep. That's about as fast as I go when I'm cold. When I'm warm, I get faster than that. Just like with anything, basketball, baseball, this is a dexterity thing. It's almost sport-like, and the more that you do it, the quicker your speed gets, and you get your rhythm. And like a dealer that's been dealing for, I'm going to say, someone that's been dealing full-time for a couple of months even, or like 3-4 days a week, you just sort of hit that stride, and everything comes out real clean, crisp, fast, all that stuff. Because you're in the business of getting hands out. That's literally all you're doing for money you make, right? But yeah, I appreciate the feedback, Chad, about wanting to see poker reviews for poker cards, chip reviews, a live poker vlog of a home game or live casino game. I don't know. Are you talking about from a poker player standpoint, or are you talking about from a dealer standpoint? The thing that I've been trying to figure out how to do is hook up a poker dealer in a casino with a GoPro or something, and almost do a poker vlog from that perspective, where the dealer, and this is because of how about both? Well, that's a good point. So from the perspective of the dealer, I would want to try to capture the interactions with the players, imagine, how would I set this up? You can imagine something like this. Let me grab this camera in 1 second. What do I do here? because this will happen for sure. Where you can see this here, right? When you're the dealer, you have something like this come up. Let's see if this reaches. Nope. Broke it. Nah, I tried. I thought I'd be able to pull that camera over, but anyway, you have something like this come up where a player goes all in and pushes his stack out, and you, the dealer, have to sort of take care of that, right? So you have to, like, showing it from the dealer's perspective of what you do, where you just start cutting it down. That's something that I picture people actually liking a lot, where you can sort of get the feel for what that looks like. You just sort of go right through it, right? This is what it's like. Dealer life, hashtag, right? Here, as the dealer, I've just cut all this out. So then I go 5, 7, 8, 9, 1,000, 1,050. Let's see. You can film all the suckouts of players. Mine would be number 1. That would be fun to have some of you guys as the players that are receiving the winning hands that the dealer beat other people on. But yeah, I was picturing stuff like this, right? So if I did a vlog, whenever there's a crazy all-in, it's one of the things that gets shown as the dealer has to figure out how to cut it out. You have people giving him a hard time and all that type of stuff as well. Greg says, hello Mark, at the moment, at the end of the hand, you push the pot, move the button, drop the rake, and drop your tip. At what point do you collect the cards? The thing that I do, I mean, how do I phrase this? The important part of everything at the end of a hand is those 4 things that you said, right? So just like you said, push the pot, move the button, drop the rake, drop your tip. After that, you could easily go and collect the cards. Honestly, I do it right after I push the pot. So for me, it looks like this. Oh, actually, well, if you have a button over here. So I push the pot. We've got 3 burn. We've got a board. Right. And you've just pushed the pot out. Here's your mug stub. Just like that. I push the pot. I collect all this. I move the button. No, I don't do that. I push the pot. Yeah, I do all those things and then I go right to the board. So let's simulate it just to make sure. Because it's funny, like that's not a part that I actually speak about. So then the question is, what do I actually do? Let's see. You guys don't always get to appreciate that a lot of the stuff that I teach, I had to sort of slow down and figure out, wait, how is this actually done? And then sort of check with other dealers and all that stuff, because it's not automatic and intuitive for everything in terms of training. Like I don't have a booklet that I received when I was learning to deal where it just shows everything. I kind of had to figure all that out. And yeah, I've said this to some of you for sure. Everything is not cleanly taught in poker. So let me create a muck here. Let's see, that's the muck. We've got a winning hand over here. That's fine. And then we've got this right here. So we push the pot, we move the button. The thing that I drop the rake, drop the tip, and then collect the board and just go, because what you really want to do is after you collect the board and you bring everything together, you want it away. So you don't want to be grabbing all this stuff, touching it, and then going back to over here. You can. I mean, it's not a horrible thing if you do. But I mean, to be fair, I don't know that there's an industry standard right answer to that across the board. I know that like the World Series is going to have their answer. I know that each poker trainer is going to have their answer. The thing I try to do with all this stuff is I try to teach more of the universal answers, and like because some rules in poker are pretty consistent across the board. So I can teach those every single time. Some rules in poker are less consistent across the board. Sparrow says, whoa, the top of your head's inside your table. Just the view when you move around. Yes, it's inside my table. It's true. Yeah, I think I set it up so that I don't have the green screen high enough behind me, because if I start to go up too high, but that's okay. Let's see. Greg says, let's play a hand. Sure, why not? Any other members that would like to play a hand right now? Here, Greg, we're going to just play heads up. We're each going to have 400. And we'll 3 consecutive hands. The Toger says, I'll play. I appreciate that you're asking to play, but you have to be a member. You have to have joined my channel in the Texas Hold'em lesson or higher tier in order to be able to play hands against me. That's why I said, are there any members that want to play? But you are able to look on, and you can sort of look on with Greg. All right, so we've got... Okay, you got lucky then. Listen, I like the way that you said that. That's very, very good. I believe that I have saved myself some embarrassment by not playing against you. But we'll never know. All right, you can start with the dealer button. I've got my chips here. I'm going to shuffle this up and deal. I'm not worthy, dang it, Chad. Yeah, you gotta have the All Texas Hold'em lessons level. All right, so the button's in front of you, and so here we go. So you're first. We'll say 2-5. So you're first. Oh, I'm gonna have to show you your hand. Here it is. I'm hoping that you can see it. So, Greg, what do you say? We're waiting on Greg here. Greg folds, okay. Folded an 8-5. All right, so I'll take your $2. And we'll do it again. Notice it's just a little mini wash in between hands when you're in a live game. The full wash that I teach in the shuffle video, that's only for a suited deck. A deck that's completely suited. So, I'm first. I'm still going to show you your hand so you can see it. And now it's on me to make this one 15. So 15 to call. It's on you. And we will show it well because it's more fun that way. You get to see what I have. I get to see what you have. You can't really stop me, right? Let's see. So Greg, what do you say? I've made it 15 and it's up to you. And here I'm shuffling chips right now to make it a little bit more intimidating. See what you think of that. Oh man, how can you play against this guy? I'll go ahead and make the call is what Greg says, all right? Because there's only 2 of us here, period. And you're first. That's on you. I feel curious. Nobody knows what you have but me. I like that. So Greg's first. And we are, it looks like he bet 110. Okay. He bets 110. There's something funny about that. That goes back to a live poker coaching video. So for 110, I'm out. So I had a 4-5 of clubs, and you had a Jack-7. So you get the pot, and there we go. And you're ahead. And just for fun, I'm going to do what you're not allowed. I'm going to show that we both would have missed. And now it's on me. Yeah, I'll do a little wash. Just a little one. Be a fraidy cat. Well, I mean, look, I had a 5 high. Not a lot I can do there. But this hand. So, you're the small blind, I'm the big blind. And here's your hand first. And that should be enough. And so, waiting on you. You're in for 2, 5 to call. Survey says, please clear your hands just before you cut the cards. That's true, I do teach that. It's not done in practice that much, but it is an important part of the game. All right, so here we go. 25. Yeah, you notice once you actually become a dealer or work in a casino that a lot of these practices are not very often done. All right, so I'm making the call here, and we are heads up. And it's on me first, and I will check. So what do you say? Notice my demeanor has calmed down. It's exit back. I was gonna say you should consider being careful when somebody's demeanor is calm and quiet like that. 30. We both know that the 6 didn't help ya. Although I will say there are definitely plenty of people who would flop trip king, but I don't think. Actually, I have no idea. I have no read on you. So, by the way, guys, while we're doing this, if you have any questions about dealing or anything like that, please feel free to tell me. Chad, I really enjoyed your comment about the stuff that you'd like to see. You know, it's tough because it's the type of thing that, like, if I could set up a studio, he says all in. All right. This is the $1 chips don't play. So I made it 30. So you check back the flop and you go all in here. So this is me going back to some previous hands that you and I have played. You could possibly have set me up perfectly, but I feel like there's a very high chance that you're bluffing just based on the way that you've played in the past. So I do have enough to beat a bluff. So now we're gonna square the pot. We've got 300, 360. I really have no idea what you have, but I can't just keep folding every time you go all in because you do it just about every hand. And this time I showed up with a pair of 3. So let's see, up against a Jack-9. You had that exact same hand last time. It's pretty funny. All right, and 4 on the river. So pair of 3s, kings and 3s with a queen is going to win. And Greg, I am starting to catch on to your all-in and aggressive. For what it's worth, a small bet probably would have accomplished the same thing and put you at much less risk. But that was the 3 hands that we talked about. Greg says, dang. Well, you did it last time with like the exact same hand, and I had to let top pair aces go. So now I have to adjust my play because you have gone all in against me with nothing. And you're going to have to get a lot more careful. Or maybe I just got lucky. So let's see. I have a total of... what kind of steak do you like, Greg? Ribeye? He's talking about ribeye, just in case you're not sure, Greg. Ribeye is a type of steak. It's very delicious when you run out of money. That was fun though. I appreciate that very much. And yeah, anybody else that's a member, if you'd like to, oh, you have to be an All Texas Hold'em Lessons or higher member. If you'd like to play a hand against me, feel free. I've got a pretty good track record here. In the True Poker Dealer live streams, I think I'm up pretty substantially overall. I am very difficult to beat at this, but I mean, I've got the advantage that I'm awesome. Greg, I'm going to be fair. I have not played live poker that much lately, just that 1 or 2 times recently. I noticed that as soon as the hand's over, the viewers go away. Everybody likes seeing whether nines. I imagine people are probably rooting for Greg. If I had to guess, most people are probably rooting for him. So, you know what? Let's play one more hand, Greg. What do you say? One more hand. We'll do I love a good New York strip. As for games, I usually play 1-2 and 1-3. No problem. Let's do 1,000 for each of us here. And we'll go like that. So Greg, are you ready to play another hand, 1,000 each? Let's see, I got an extra black chip, no problem. And, all right. Yeah, we'll do 1,000 each. And we'll play 10-25 will be fine. And you can be in for 10. I'll be in for 25. And we'll shuffle it up and deal. So this hand's gonna be a lot of pressure, right? This is a little home game trick actually. So I learned this in table games in order to actually riffle the cards more. If you take a third off the bottom and just put it on top, it sort of replaces the need for a wash. Each time you riffle, you take a third off the bottom and put it on the top. I did learn that in table games. They wanted to make sure that nobody could follow a card, and that definitely helps. So we're playing 10-25 for 1,000 each. Me versus Greg, one more hand for redemption for him. So we'll see how this goes for you. So you can go first. I think that's probably good enough. And it's up to you. And I'll take a look at mine. Curious to see here. What do you think? I'm also curious, Greg, if you've ever studied heads-up strategy at all. I have a bit. This is the biggest hand I've ever played. I'll make it 50. All right, so raises, and I'll call. So we are heads up here. And that's going to be on me first. I'm going to check this flop. Greg says he has not studied heads-up strategy. In case you missed his hand, this is what Greg's playing. And right. And here's the turn. And I check again. So check for me. $100 in the pot, 900 behind. I will say it's always weird for me to both be the dealer and play at the same time. You know, training in casinos makes it relatively insane to do that. Greg goes ahead and bets 75. I am going to, I'm going to check my suits one more time. I am going to make this 275. I'll raise to 275 total. Waiting to see what Greg does. While we're waiting, I am going to reintroduce us to True Poker Dealer. Now has merchandise. You can buy True Poker Dealer logoed items. This is as requested by Chad last week. I decided to put this together and throw this in. In order to get there, you just go to merch, merch.truepokerdealer.com, and you can buy any of these. I personally like this one, the Conversation Starter hoodie. Have you noticed that every time you tell someone you're a poker dealer, you become the center of attention? This absolutely happens to me. This version of the True Poker Dealer logo makes sure that the poker dealer stands out for anyone you walk by. Get ready for story time, right in the center, just like that. I made that logo specifically for the thumbnail for YouTube so that people could see it. You just check raise me. What are you repping? No way, I'm good here. I'm out. All right. So he folds, and you already know that you have 7-9, and I've got 4-3 for the open-ended straight draw, giving myself a chance to take it down with a check raise. And we might as well bring the river just for the heck of it. And it's a 3, and you were smart to get out. Bad fold, 6-ball river. Well, even though the hand was over, in the True Poker Dealer casino, we do rabbit hunt, so we can find out what would have happened. And the 3 would have paired me, and I would have ended up winning. And Greg, you did good by folding there. Got yourself a chance to get out easy. However, I will say this: with a 7-9 there, you do not really have the option to call. I mean, you could call and maybe take a stab at it with about a pot-sized bet, which you have slightly more than a pot-sized bet left. That'd be okay, but you know, you're probably facing another barrel for me, and it'd be tough to stick around for that. So I appreciate you playing. All right, so what else are we gonna do now? Let's see. Not a good fold. He had 10 outs. Well, he only has 10 outs if he knows that. Oh, wait a minute. 10 outs? You mean 10 outs to top pair, maybe? You know, I could have had a deuce. He would have had 4 outs to a deuce. But he didn't have 10 outs. He had the best hand because his high card was better than my high card on the flop. So I was the one that had the outs. And I had 14 outs, as it turned out. So it was an interesting hand nonetheless. Now let's just do a flip. Have you guys ever seen in casinos the high limit players sometimes will just do flips? They'll be like, all right, dealer, let's do a PLO flip. And as the dealer, you're just like, okay. What a PLO flip is, you literally just deal out a hand of PLO, and whoever wins, wins. So all the money goes in before the flop. I remember when I first started seeing this, it was like a big deal because you weren't supposed to do this according to the state regs. So let's do a... That's pretty funny, actually, that I did that. You would never back this up without a supervisor. You would probably just reshuffle. So let's do that. We'll reshuffle. Everyone's like, oh, but it's okay. Chad says, you can throw outs out the window against my wife. She hits over 90% of the time on the river. You know, that tends to happen when you play against somebody that doesn't really get poker that well. I don't know if your wife does or doesn't, but my experience is here, I'll just deal heads up to both of us. My experience is that players that don't understand poker, they end up staying in no matter what, and they end up sucking out hands that other people would have folded. So here we go. This is PLO, and this is going to be for $1,000 a flip. So here we go on the flop. Boy, that's a pretty good flop for you. Well, actually, it's not that good for you. There's still a lot that can happen. Nobody can get a flush even though it's suited. But that's a good turn for you. As I'm evaluating this, there is nothing that I can get that would win. So it does sort of look like I make a straight, but you have to use 2 from your hand and 3 from the board. Using 2 from the hand and 3 from the board, this player right here, the best hand that they can make is 7s with an ace king or an ace king queen. So this hand's going to win here with 3 7s, or yeah, that's all they have is 3 7s. So they have 3 7s with a jack. The 8s don't play. So you get 1,000. You won. Not bad at all. Let's see. Wow, I don't know how to say it. Trey Wet S64. Hey, got a question for you. What is the protocol if a dealer called the hand wrong and awards the chips to the wrong person? Floor. That's a floor call. So the dealer protocol for that is as soon as you realize it, you call a supervisor and you stop everything at the table. The supervisor protocol is to figure out a bunch of things in order to determine, according to the rules of the house, what to do. Generally speaking, when the dealer pushes the pot to the wrong person, let me say it this way. If all hands were tabled properly, meaning, each player put their hand face up on the table properly, and it was, say it's just like this, right? If everybody puts their hand on the table properly, and for whatever reason they thought this was a straight over here, let me get myself out of the way. Let's say that they thought this was a straight right here, all right? So the dealer mucks the winning hand and says, okay, this player is the winner with a straight. Push the pot over to them. Well, let's make it more challenging. Something like this, it's not easy to tell how much it was, and they already have chips. Something like that. If you push the pot over to them, they're going to start collecting the chips up as soon as you do that and stacking them. They might stack them on top of their chip stack already. If it gets to that point right there, the dealer is just going to communicate exactly what they did. The supervisor is going to come in and ask questions such as, did everybody table their hand? When they tabled it, what did they have? What were their cards? So like the supervisor shouldn't be asking what did they have for their hand. They should be asking what cards were in their hand. Then they find out what was in the hand, and they make a determination based on a whole bunch of factors, exactly what happened. Sometimes a player can misrepresent something and cause all kinds of mistakes. But for the most part, if a player that did not win the pot gets the pot, they are going to try to recreate the correct amount. From this point on, in the supervisor call, let's say that the determination is you can't tell exactly how much the pot was just looking at it. The supervisor is going to sometimes estimate how much the pot was, put it aside so that they can figure out with surveillance exactly how much it was, and then pass that give that pot to the correct player. But yeah, generally speaking, they're going to fix that. Let's see. Hopefully that answered you in a satisfactory way. Greg's, you're right. Knockney says, how much time do you take to learn all the rules and become confident in dealing when you started your career? I went to a blackjack school to start. I learned all the mechanics, and I learned blackjack and 3-card poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, Spanish 21. And I bring that up because typically it takes about 3 weeks or so to really get a sense of the basics of being a dealer, whether it's table games or poker. The mechanics take about a week. It's like an entire day shuffling, an entire day pitching, an entire day cutting chips, and some other combinations of things just to get your hands used to it. And by the time you're done with that few days, it doesn't feel natural. Like shuffling feels super weird for weeks. I remember when I first started dealing, I was thinking to myself, like, this is never going to feel good. But now it feels like a second nature. by the time all is said and done for a typical poker course, you're looking at, between lessons and practice time, you're looking at about 100 to 140 hours of real concentrated time in order for you to feel not even comfortable. It's just good enough to pass an audition, which is somewhat comfortable. So for me, because I was a table games dealer first, I spent 5 weeks learning to be a table games dealer. I spent about 3 months as a table games dealer, and then I took a 2-week poker course where we just learned the rules of dealing poker. And there was a lot of stuff, honestly, that was left out, but I had been playing poker a lot, so I sort of just picked up the rest of it. But I wasn't comfortable dealing poker at the tables for probably about a month. I remember feeling pretty overwhelmed when I first started. Although, again, like I said, I didn't get a full poker course. I sort of had to create that. Later on, when I was a poker supervisor, teaching people how to deal, the general answer was it was about 100 hours plus in order for somebody to go start to finish. And that's if they know nothing about poker. It's always quicker if somebody comes in truly understanding the game, especially from the player standpoint. But there's a difference between really understanding poker from a player standpoint, like taking it very seriously as a player, and understanding it from a casual poker player standpoint. I'm not talking about from a casual poker player standpoint. In fact, I would say one of the toughest things to do is to try to become a poker dealer when you sort of play a little bit of poker here or there. Like maybe you played poker 5 times at a casino, but you feel like you understand poker because you know more than the rest of your friends. When you try to walk into a casino having played poker 5 times and thinking like, yeah, I get poker, you're going to get your butt handed to you most of the time when you go to school. So you almost want to treat yourself in that scenario like you don't know anything and just soak it all in like a sponge, because there's a lot there. But yeah, that's my answer for how I sort of learned. It was blackjack class for 5 weeks, relatively stressful blackjack audition, passed it, worked as a table games dealer for about 3 months, took a 2-week only the rules poker course, didn't really feel ready, but said, what the heck, they need people to deal poker in this casino. Jumped in, started dealing, and I got a lot of my training on the job, which stuff like that is relatively common. And then after about a month, I was pretty confident. And I had a pretty substantial poker playing background coming into it, where I think I had probably seen maybe 40 to 50,000 hands as a player at that point. Let's see. That was a lot of that was online, for the record. I probably saw about 20,000 live. And Nick says all in. I assume that was back when I was dealing out the hand. Greg says not bad at all. David says, how does a chip collector work? I've heard that term sort of as like, oh, that poker player is just a chip collector. They just keep winning and winning and winning. I'm not sure what you're referring to from, like, is there a device that is a chip collector? I know that there's a mucking machine in roulette where you funnel all the chips down into the mucker and it comes out and sort of like stacks them all up. But I don't know what a chip collector is. Maybe there's a term that I just don't know what it is. So listen, I'm always open to learning new stuff that exists. Let's do poker chip collector. I'll share the screen with you guys so you can see. Casino chip collecting. Taking casino chips. Poker chip collecting guide. Now it just seems like the terminology that shows up here is different. The Toker says, what's the difference between a poker dealer and a toilet seat? The difference between a poker dealer and a toilet seat. So I'm not trying to defend poker dealers or answer this question. I'm trying to figure out the punchline of the joke that he's presenting to me. So what would the punchline of the joke? What's the difference between a poker dealer and a toilet seat? Maybe the toilet seat doesn't actually get crapped on. The toilet seat, it goes through the toilet seat. The dealer gets actually crapped on. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe that's the punchline there. Bruno says, here in Brazil, players are now on Omaha 5 cards, sometimes with a 7+ deck. So it sounds like they're playing short deck. We call that Big O, which is Omaha with 5 cards. That's interesting. Short deck poker has certainly become a thing. It's pretty much the same thing. It's just you don't have the deuces, deuce tray, 4, 5, and 6. The toker says a toilet seat only has to put up with one a-hole at a time. Very, very, very good. Totally. Yeah. When you first start dealing, it's like really exciting, and then after a while, you start to realize that you're a few things at once. As a poker dealer, and you get paid well for this, so don't get me wrong, it's worth it, right? But as a poker dealer, you manage the game of poker. You are a bartender in a way, listening to people's problems. You are a professional change maker, especially when you deal 1-2 no limit in a game that has a rake. You're just constantly making change. And you are a babysitter. There's a lot of poker players that need babysitting, and you are the man for that, or woman, especially if they're a bit drunk and it's late at night. Let's see. Greg says, that's why it's important to keep track of the pot, right? I don't remember what I was saying at the time. Let's see. Greg says, I'm trying to become a winning player. All in all, my cash game is okay, I would say, but my tournament game can use a lot of work. Interesting. For what it's worth, Greg, we've talked about live poker coaching before with Mike. Mike is a tournament pro more than a cash pro. He's great at cash, and live poker coaching is a cash YouTube channel. But his tournament play is absolutely amazing, and it's really fascinating learning from him in terms of tournament. That's what the live poker coaching product was originally, and we are going to go back to that at some point. Let's see. Spiro says, the blackjack audition was hard. Auditions aren't hard. It's just that there's a lot of pressure, and that sort of makes it hard. So the blackjack audition that I did, this was back in 2007. Literally what happened was there was a dealer dealing at a blackjack table. I had to learn pitch, which was double deck, where you hold the deck in your hand. I also had to learn shoe. So they were back-to-back tables. One was pitch blackjack, one was a shoe. They have you come in on a busy Friday night, and they have you deal the actual real blackjack game. And you deal it for a few minutes, and the dealer that's there that you taps out, they stand behind, and they make sure that you don't make any money errors. And the auditioner, which is one of the supervisors or shift managers on duty, they watch, and they have their little notebook, and they evaluate. You come in wearing, this is what I did back then, I came in wearing a white shirt and black pants, which is the standard. And everybody knows that, the next 5 minutes might go well and might not go well while they're there gambling at the casino. And yeah, it was a real table. It was live players. So that audition was, it's just, look, it's intense because if you don't pass, you don't get a job. That said, it was regular, right? It was just players doing things that I'd learned over and over and over again. A poker audition is more frequently done behind closed doors, where it's not on a live game, right? I've seen a couple of poker auditions that were live, but most of the time they're not live, and that gives supervisors and people at the table an opportunity to sort of challenge you. And so the poker auditions can be a lot more difficult. If I'm auditioning somebody, which I did this 2 times in the last 3 days, I do video auditions for people that take my course sometimes, and both of the times I challenged the person who was auditioning by having somebody on the flop in a 1-2 no limit game. The first person bets 10, the next person bets some amount that's not 20 for a raise, and like 16, 17, 18, 19, something like that. And I see what they do. And the correct thing to do in that case, if somebody bets 10 and the next person puts out, say, 17 without saying anything, that's more than 50% of a raise. As the dealer, you would just basically say that needs to be 20, right? If they ask you anything like that, like why does it need to be 20, you explain, well, the raise amount minimum is 10. That's less than a full raise, but it's more than half of a raise, which would be 5. So because it's between half and a full raise, you're required to put in a minimum raise. And then if they continue to give resistance, you would call the floor at that point. But that's one of the types of things. So when you're actually auditioning, you create, if it's like supervisors and stuff, you create so many opportunities for the people to take shots, but real players aren't going to do that. But it is stressful because you're just like, oh no, I don't know. You're like, oh no, I don't know if I'm going to pass, right? You go into it. I remember, I didn't remember my first audition at all. I got to watch it later because they had it in casino surveillance, and they saved the tapes for the 6 of us that had passed the class and gone on to the audition live stage. But man, it was a complete blur. I didn't remember it. When I was done, it was like, whoa. Let's see. If you use them, what kind of poker shuffler would you recommend? Well, the deckmates are the standard in casinos now. The deckmate 2, I think, is the one that's the most common. I haven't used anything other than the deckmates. I mean, but look, they're like $12,000 machines, very, very expensive, and they're durable and all that stuff. So I don't really have anything to compare them to. My experience with them is interesting. They're never perfect, and it's sort of annoying that you spend 12 grand on a shuffler that, like, there's a red light and a green light. Red light means bad. Green light means good to go. The red light comes up a lot. This is one of the reasons why I've never worked a shift as a deal shuffle sometimes. I mean, there is one case that comes up every day anyway where, say the players chop in a hand. Well, if they chop, the shuffler hasn't actually had time to shuffle, so you would just have to hand shuffle then. And people chop just about every day, but yeah, sometimes it has trouble reading the cards, or there's all kinds of issues that can come up, and most of the time it's not because there's the wrong number of cards or something like that. But that being said, I tend to communicate the negatives even when there's a bunch of positives. So I really do like the deckmates overall, so I should say positive things about it. Greg says, actually, Mark, I got a question. When it comes to all-in situations in 2-5 no limit hold'em, why is it that $1 chips don't play? In general, this is not universal. Some places will have the $1 chips play. But in general, in the poker world, it is only increment or higher that play in cash games. So 1, 2, when I say increments, I'm talking about the no limit. $2 requires $1 chips in order to be able to use. So the $1 chips would play there. Yes, if you have a $2 chip, you could do that. No. It's in 1, 2 no limit, all denominations play. But in 2, 5, the big blind is 5. So in order to just make everything easier, they just say increments of $5 only count. And your loose change gets pushed back anytime, say that you try to go all in for 500 and set back. So think of it this way. If you have 5 people that go all in for 573, it's just annoying to deal with the $3 for everybody. It comes out even with no change almost all the time if it's all 570 per person. And so it's an attempt to make the game a little bit simpler. Also, it makes it easier to calculate the pot in a lot of cases for PLO when it's a $5 big blind. Nobody really wants to worry about that. Much easier to do 570 times 3 than it would be to do 573 times 3. So it's an overall shortcut for the game. It's the simplest way to say it. Bruno says, once we were in a cash game, closed room, 3 dealers. A friend of ours paid a pot wrongly to the wrong player. It turns out if a pot is awarded wrongly, the player is not obligated to give it back. Dealer's mistake. So the table and award the winning player. She was $7,000, something like $5,000. We split that with her and spent months paying. We were working for 27 hours. So there's a few things to comment on here. So once the next hand begins, to some degree, once the next hand begins in a lot of casinos, all mistakes are final. So if a dealer pushes the pot to the wrong player, the player has plenty of time to speak up, and it is on them to correct the mistake, or anyone that notices. So if the dealer pushes the pot wrong and then starts the next hand, some places say once the riffle happens for the next hand. Some places say once the first card is pitched out. Whatever the rule is at that given house, if the pot got pushed to the wrong player, they would have to keep the pot, and it would be on the person at the table who was supposed to win for not speaking up. It sounds like you're talking about a $27,000. I understand that part, but the house has the right to rule anything that they want. So it's not true that if the pot is pushed to the wrong player, the player has the choice. Cards were face open still. It was a crazy situation. The loser was losing a lot, so he wouldn't resolve. If this is a private game, sometimes private games sort of abandon the rules, and the house doesn't. The house sometimes, or the private game sometimes says, hey, I'm only going to come here if you guys don't make the rulings, if we make the rulings. I've seen that before. I'm not saying it's a great practice, but that could have been what you were faced with. But generally speaking, by the way, this happens a lot more with higher stakes stuff, okay? So the higher the stakes and the more private and predetermined a game is, the more likely you are to get some stuff that happens that's outside of traditional rules. And that's okay. There's a lot of reasons for that. But in a normal setting, you're saying the cards are all face up on the table, a pot gets pushed to the wrong player, that should be corrected. And in just about any casino that I've worked at, that is what would happen. But like I said, see, a lot of private games, they have this completely different dynamic going on, where the private games, they've spent an enormous amount of time trying to get fish or whales to come to the table, whales being a large fish essentially. And in order to get them to come to the table and stay and be comfortable, you sort of have to throw the rule book out at the door sometimes and focus on what's going to get them to want to stay. So I don't really understand what happened in your scenario in terms of where the decision came from. There's so many factors that could have been involved. If you're asking me the question, under normal circumstances, when a pot's pushed to the wrong player, does the player have the right to keep it? The answer is no. The casino would literally get that money back from the player. They would not allow the player to cash out. They would tell the player that they're no. And I mean, they're not gonna wrestle the player down. So if the thing that you're saying is once it's in the player's possession, they're not gonna be able to cash it out. They're not gonna be able to come back into the casino. They would literally have to stop the game right then and there. Take all the chips home without going to the cashier, because if they hand them to the cashier, the casino is going to confiscate them because they don't belong to the person. It's just like you're not going to have security come and beat somebody up, so they would have a way to walk out the door. But if it's still on the table, like the dealer could go and reach back for the chips if they're on the table. They could kick the player out immediately, etc. But most of the time, when a player walks out with chips that a floor ruling was made don't belong to them, the next time they come back, they're not allowed to play until they pay back. And it's really interesting. Like, I've seen players that have owed $500, $600, $700, $800 before. I think the most I've seen was over $2,000, where they insisted they didn't want to pay it back, but then at the end of the day, they weren't allowed to gamble at that casino, and they really wanted to, so they just paid it back. It's a common thing. But yeah, I haven't personally seen a scenario where it's been like a $27,000 pot that was pushed to the wrong player and the player just insisted on keeping it. If that were to happen, there would be a lot of people involved trying to get that money back. But I don't believe, unless there's a police officer on property, if there's a police officer on property, they might have the ability to use force in order to get that back and be in the right. But I'm not really sure, to be honest. I can't say that I'm right about that. Let's see. Spiro says, babysitting, it's a good way to put it. Haha, for sure, that is valid at times at our poker room here. Oh, absolutely. A poker dealer, I'm sorry to say it, but a poker dealer spends some of their time babysitting. No question about it. And it can either be frustrating to a dealer or it can sort of turn into a fun game. Because there's a lot of like little subtle dynamics that you can play with as a dealer in those spots. Greg says, it would seem I can learn a lot from Mike then, from what I've seen so far. I like it. Yeah, you can learn a ton from Mike Lockey. Like, my tournament game got so much better because of him, too. When I first played I think it was a $10K, $100 buy-in. It might have been a $20K. And I played differently than I would have, and I could literally see the different points in my game where I was accumulating chips as a result that were just there to be taken. Like, that's the best feeling in the world. When you are playing in a tournament or cash game as a poker player, you know how you play, and you've learned a few things, and you can literally identify, like, these chips right here, I know exactly how to get them. I'm going to go get them right now with this action in this situation because of this. Like, I had 3 or 4 experiences like that. I did cash the tournament, and it was just amazing being able to sort of see things that clearly. Spiro says, oh yeah, live game audition sounds nerve-wracking. Yeah, it was pretty nerve-wracking. The Toker says, it's heads up on the river. Player B tells player A, if you go all in, I'm calling. Player A bets all in. Player B folds. What is the ruling? Let me see. Player B tells player A. A lot of poker rooms nowadays have committed players to that, but the language needs to be right in the rules. I had a conversation with somebody that was a supervisor at Aria in Vegas, one of the more respected or the best respected rooms. They have a specific rule addressing that language when a player conditionally says that they're going to take an action. And it literally calls for the shift manager to come to the table and commit the player to it. But the reason they have a shift manager do it is because these are usually large money decisions that are made by the supervising staff that are unfavorable, not unfavorable, they're unpopular with the player that's stuck being committed, right? So they skip all of having the dealer and the supervisor go back and forth about it. They go right to the shift manager. I personally love that. I think like Sean McCormick does a great job. And on top of it, in addition to him, there's a bunch of geniuses there. Maybe it's the people he hired, I'm not sure. But a room that I worked at in Florida also forced players to commit their stacks in those situations. I do think that that's a good way to... that said, this is not universal. So there is no universal answer to that scenario. I personally think that the best way to run a room is to force a player to stick to their conditional in order to prevent players from angling by making... Essentially, it's an angle shoot from an experienced player to an inexperienced player in a lot of cases, which is just not good for the game. So, yeah. But, I mean, that's sort of the answer. Like, my vote and the rule books that I support the most say that would end up being a call. However, it's very touchy. There's subtleties that can change the result, and a shift manager being present is such a good way to handle that, in my opinion. Let's see. Chad says, I don't know if they have it or not, but if they do, you should compare in the dealer championship or compete in the dealer championship. You would win. They used to have dealer Olympics at the WSOP, which I think you would win it. I super appreciate that. So the thing that's tough about this is my skill set for dealing, the thing that I'm best at in dealing is preventing problems that could potentially come up. Years as a supervisor and shift manager make it so I can sort of foresee and simulate out what might happen, and I can take paths as a dealer that diffuse all situations. That's a very difficult thing to properly represent in a dealer competition, but if that could ever be represented well, I would absolutely crush that. In terms of speed and all that stuff, I'm above average, but that's it. My speed is definitely there. It's quick, it's smooth, but I have seen and I have hired some dealers that are insanely fast. Look, some dealers spend 20 years dealing, right? I've watched somebody suit a deck in 28 seconds before. I know that it gets quicker than that, but I think I can suit a deck in maybe 50 seconds on my best day, maybe 40 something. But yeah, it's really cool seeing competitions and all that type of stuff, and it's definitely on my list of things. Look, would people like watching dealer challenges and competitions on True Poker Dealer? Absolutely. Is that going to happen? I believe it'll happen at some point. It's on my list of fun things to start doing on this channel. Let's see. Bruno says, I'd love to work as a dealer in the U.S., any state where I can work without being a citizen, having a business visa, I think you're saying. And you said your skill set is amazing. I appreciate that. I learned from you and started working after your very first videos. You really changed my life. Today I have a profession. Super happy to hear that. I don't think you can be in the U.S. as a poker dealer without a visa. I think you'd have to be able to work here legally. And I don't think you can get like an H4N or whatever it's called. No, H1B. I got a little help from Levi over there. Thank you. I don't think casinos. I've never seen a casino hire through an H1B. For the record, I have seen. Well, I take it back. I've never seen them hire for a dealer position. There's just too much turnover for them to want to spend the $4,000 or whatever it costs in order to get somebody. Greg says I can pick up 40 loose chips in 20 seconds. Does that count as fast? Yes. I think that I actually don't know how quickly I would be able to pick up 40 loose chips, but I mean, I've also seen, to that point, I've seen roulette muckers. Oh man, when they pick chips up, it's just incredibly fast to watch. I taught my son my 6-year-old how to pick up chips like a roulette mucker. It's really cute watching little hands do it. Maybe I'll make a video of him just doing that for a while. I do like the idea of creating content where there's a bunch of challenges. But we are coming up on 4 o'clock, and I am excited to say that I am taking a trip out to Sarasota. Tonight I'm going to be joining up with Michael Lockey, and we're going to be recording 3 days worth. That's going to be a fun little trip, and we have so much that we are adding to enhance this whole project with live poker coaching. So I'm pretty excited about that. But I am going to wind it down now, and anybody that's looking for your last minute questions, feel free to ask them. I'll hit whatever's left before it's time to go. Greg says I can hardly wait to watch them. I appreciate that. Sparrow says just an idea, and it might be hard now with COVID, but have you thought of at all you hosting a home game, being a dealer while streaming live? I appreciate that request, sort of suggestion. I have, and there's a few pieces of that I sort of struggle with, but it's on the possibilities list. The thing I'd really like to do better would be to have my own room for a game in South Florida in like one of the casinos that I'm friendly with here. But if I'm being honest, I don't like the feeling of putting together a private game. Like, they'd let me do whatever I want, record whatever I want if I put together a private game, and they would not allow it to be a game that they currently spread, so it would have to be 5-5 and higher at a lot of the places. But if anybody out there wants to play 5-5 no limit Texas Hold'em with me in South Florida, I mean, I guess send me an email and I'll start a list, and then maybe we can start a game. Yeah, I would play 5-5. They would let me do that, and I would put a GoPro on the dealer. I'd have them put it. This is a place that I worked at. So, yeah, I appreciate that. I think doing it at a casino is the best way to do it, honestly, because then it's like super real in every way, and the casino gets their branding on it as well. But yeah, I'm just curious. Does anybody want to play Florida? If anybody wants to play live poker with me, it's in South Florida, and have it be a part of a video series, but actually at a casino, no, because Bruno says, I'll be in Coconut Creek, May 2021. That's really good location. Coconut Creek is, come do this. I used to work in Coconut Creek at the casino for the Seminole Casino. However, May 2021 is sort of late. That being said, hey, hit me up. Let me know when you're in town. Here, I'll put the email here. support@truepokerdealer.com. Send an email to support@truepokerdealer.com if you want to play live poker with me. The stakes that like, honestly, I would love to play 1-3 no limit. I think 1-3 or 1-2 is in most people's ballparks for this, but in order for me to get my own private game, I think it would have to be 5-5 no limit or higher. So we'll maybe they'll do a private 1-3 no limit game, as long as we're paying time rake, which they would take $9 per person per half hour is how they do it. But let's see. Greg says, I'm way up in Vermont. I can't live in Florida because I'd be complaining about the heat all the time. Bruno says, try. I mean, sure, I'll try. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm from the Boston area. So I don't know if I told you that, Greg. I spent 25 years in the Northeast, and I was freezing all the time, and I did not like being cold. And moving down to Florida for the last 11 years or so, it's been glorious for me. I'm just never cold. I'm never cold. I love that. Bruno says, and if Omaha tables come up, I'm in. I'm picturing taking a watering can and some Omaha seeds and sort of planting it and letting it grow. The Toker says, just remember, the less you bet, the more you lose when you win. I will remember that. Thank you. Well, I appreciate everybody, and always good to spend time with you guys. Sorry about the slow start with all the technical difficulties, but you guys are awesome. Always enjoy these Tuesdays, and I'll see you guys next week.